Hello YouTube! Today on the Naughty Librarian I am going over my end of February wrap-up. In the second half of February I managed to read 4 additional books and they're all romances. That was kind of like my vibe for February this year, and I had some ups and some downs with it. I'll get into both. But yeah, let's just get into what I read. Let's start reviewing some stuff. First category is historical romance, and I read one of those. I continued on my Lisa Kleypas journey with Cold-Hearted Rake, and okay. I wanted to like it more than I ended up liking it. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars max. I don't know if this is a thing with Lisa Kleypas or not, but now that I've read 2 of her books, in both of them the male lead has been garbage. Like, they're garbage humans. Like, these aren't like a cold-hearted Rake with like a heart of gold. This is a cold-hearted Rake whose heart may be made of assholes. I'm not sure. This is about Kathleen and Devin Ravenel. This is the start of the Ravenel series. And Devin is the cold-hearted Rake, and he has inherited this like earldom, and he's like, oh, I'm a devil-may-care guy, I don't want to do work. And then Kathleen's there, and she's kind of uppity, and she's just like, you have to do work! And then somehow, like, he really likes her. And there's parts of Kathleen that I like. I like that she, you know, she stands up for what she believes in. She stands up for other people. That's all dope. But honestly, like, oh my gosh, like, what a fucking drag to be around. Like, I don't think I'd want to be friends with Kathleen. She seems like not very fun. She would like scold people for using the wrong fork. Like, she's just like very uptight. And then Devin is like, you know, rogue, devil-may-care, party boy. And he's just like, yeah, Kathleen, I like you. Why? I don't get why these two are attracted to each other. A lot of the relationship, I just didn't get it. I didn't understand why they were together. I mean, I liked the ending where they ended up together. I thought that was cute. But overall, I'm like, why are these people together? I think it's just circumstance, basically. And I didn't really like any of the characters in the book. All of the men in here are just garbage people. Like, horrible. Because we're introduced to the couple for the next book. And the guy in this book is such a shit that I don't want to read more books of the series. Like, I hate all the characters. So, I don't know about this. I don't think I want to read the Ravenel series. Maybe there's something else by Lisa Kleypas that I'll like, but this one isn't doing it for me. I think the only character I liked in this was West, who's Devin's brother, who is a Rake with a heart of gold. There's one character who I kind of liked, but his book isn't until like book 5 or something of this series, and like, I'm not gonna read a bunch more books to get to that, because that sounds like, oh my gosh, my soul would die. Well, I don't think it was particularly poorly written. I think it was executed well. Like, you know, it's a historical romance, Regency era. The pacing didn't have problems. It's written well. I think for the right reader, they might really, really like it. For me, in particular, I'm like, these are all garbage people and I hate them. And I really couldn't get into it. So hence, like 3 to 3.5 stars, because it's not a bad book. It's just not the book for me. And I'm really worried about Lisa Kleypas, and like, does she write all of her men like this? Because they're all garbage. Like, to a degree where I'm uncomfortable with how garbage they are. Like, like, it's gonna take a lot for me to forgive these people, frankly. So, I'm not reading any more of the Ravenel series. I don't think I'm gonna like it. Next category is sci-fi, and I read one of those. I read Polaris Rising by Jessie, and you know what? I gave it like 4 stars. It was a fun space action romance adventure. I enjoyed reading it. It was a fun read. Like, the main characters in this are Ada and Marcus, and I like Ada a lot. She's really dope as a heroine. She's really well written. She's feisty. She's smart. She can handle her own. Love it. Marcus, I kind of think Marcus is like Vin Diesel in Pitch Black. At least the way he's described. He's freaking Vin Diesel in Pitch Black. Sorry, that's not anything to do with the plot, but that's just like, I had so vivid in my mind. Ada's kind of a, you know, out of lack of a better word, space princess. She's kind of a member of this like very powerful family, and they have like house dynasties and stuff, the powerful families who control everything, and she's a member of one of those houses. And she's on the run, and then Marcus is like he's like a criminal, hidden stuff, and she's like, hey, I gotta get the F off this spaceship, and he's like, okay. And then they help each other, and then eventually like just bang the bejesus out of each other, which honestly, the smut was pretty decent in here. I enjoyed it. I feel like the world building is a little shaky, honestly. It starts really abruptly, and I don't really like that in books because I want to be able to get to know who the character is when they're not in peril before they're in peril. Like, if you start a book with a character immediately getting captured and in peril for their life, I'm not getting an understanding of who they are. So I would rather have like a chapter of her being normal, and then maybe at the end of chapter 1 she's captured. That's how I prefer to start a book, so I understand the character, rather than starting she's already captured. It's like, I feel like I've missed chapter 1. So right off the bat I was like, this is very abrupt. And also, I was talking about those families that control everything, and they're called the Consortium. And I've read this whole book. And I still don't know what the Consortium is. I really tried to figure it out because like this never talked about like the origin of it, like what the Consortium does. Like, I know there are these families and they own things and therefore they have all this power and they run things, but like, how does the fucking government work? Why do they own everything? Why is the world like this? I don't know the whys of anything. So that's something that I keep thinking about throughout the book. It takes me out of the story because I'm like, why? Why are things like this? I don't understand why. World building could have been a little bit more detailed. She does go to several different planets, and like the setting that the character is in right then are really richly detailed. So like there's a desert planet, there's a ice planet and stuff. So she goes to all these different places and they're all very vividly described. And I liked that. Awesome. I still don't know how this universe works. So there are problems in the world building overall, but in the end, I guess it's still really fun sci-fi space adventure story. You know, she's fighting for freedom and her own freedom and trying to take down the bad guys, and then Marcus is along, who's like sexy Vin Diesel in Pitch Black, and he's all like, ooh, I'm really strong and I'll help you, and like, you know, so there's a lot of like political aspects of this and like espionage, and there's really fun like side characters and side plots. So overall, like, it's a super fun sci-fi space adventure with like dashes of smut. So I gave it 4 stars. I had a fun time reading this, but you know, the world building is a little bit shaky and it could have been on a stronger foundation. Next category is contemporary romance, and I read 2 of those. This book was not on my TBR list, but I wanted to sneak it in, and that is The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. This was kindly sent to me by Avon Books. Thank you very much. And I had heard about it, and it was on my radar, and I really wanted to read it, and then I started reading it, and I was like, my soul is so happy. I gave it like 4.5 stars because it's not incredible. Like, I can't give it that 5-star, but like, it was so much fun to read. I had like such a great time with this. It's kind of the story of Lena and Max. And Lena is a wedding planner, and she was going to marry Max's brother. Max's brother jilted her at the altar and sent out this text saying, hey, Max told me something and it made a lot of sense. I'm not getting married. So everyone's mad at Max. Cut to a few years later, she's in the running to get this job that's really important, and finds out that, hey, the marketing manager is Max, and she has to work with him. So you have this full enemies to lovers trope built right in, and like the richness of like the comedy elements you can dig from that is like very fertile ground. And you know what? The book was humorous without trying too hard to be humorous, you know what I mean? It weren't like shoving jokes down my throat, but like the situational comedy of this was very fun. Also, Lena, the main character, is of Afro-Brazilian descent, so there's a lot of little like Brazilian sayings in here and a lot of Brazilian food. Her family's this big Brazilian family, so there's a lot of like cool, interesting cultural details in here. And she does even manage to talk about like sexist bias and how sexism exists for all women, but if you're a woman of color, it's even worse. So they even get into some definite issues in here, and not beating you over the head with it, but they slip them in, and it's discussed. And I like how Max is just like, yeah, I'm a white guy. I'm an idiot for not realizing all of these facts. Like, he listens and understands, and like there's a learning process here. But that's like kind of beside the point of the main plot. There's a lot going on in here that was really well written and executed well, and I had so much fun reading this. Like I was saying, this is enemies to lovers. It's Lena and Max. They gotta work together, so you have forced proximity. They got that trope going on. Enemies to lovers. And, you know, oh my gosh, they even sneak in the trope of, but there's only one bed. I love it, yes. And Max is kind of like an adorable little cinnamon roll of a character, and I liked a lot of aspects of the story were built upon open communication, and I liked that quite a bit. It wasn't like, ooh, we're gonna break up over a misunderstanding, which is stupid. Like, you know, there's the inevitable down point of the story before you have the triumphant finish, but it wasn't due to miscommunication. And I was so refreshed by that, frankly. I want a book where people can be adults and talk to each other like adults, and then also, like, have lots of smutty time. Like, there's a lot of smut. Well, like, not a lot of smut. I think there's like 3 or 4 scenes of smut in here, but they're good. They're excellent smutty scenes, so I recommend. Dash of Smut is great, and it's not like overwhelming the plot, so it's kind of like the smut balance I like. I can't recommend enough. I love this so much. It is funny without trying too hard, and it's also culturally relevant, and it also has all those fun rom-com tropes you want. So I recommend this so much. Please read this. It's so good. It makes me want to go read other books by Mia Sosa. Oh my gosh, how did I not find this author before? She's brilliant. I love this book so much. This last book. Have you ever just picked up a book where you're like, oh man, literally everyone loves this book. It's gonna be a slam dunk, 5 stars, gonna have the best time reading this. And then you pick it up and you're just like, oh no, because you immediately kind of hate it. That happened to me this month, and I'm really worried about reviewing this book because, like I said, I have literally not seen anybody dislike it, and I'm like, why am I a monster? Why am I the only person who dislikes it? So, you know what? If you love this book, obviously you have the majority opinion, and I'm so glad you loved it. I'm really bummed I didn't, so let's just get into it. I'm just gonna tell you what it was. I really wanted to like Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. Every fiber of my being thought this was gonna be a slam dunk. Like, I'm gonna love this. Everybody loves this book. Yes! And then I started reading it and I was like, oh no. Like, oh no. It was like the immediate sinking feeling where you're like, oh no, this is gonna be bad. I'll be honest, this was almost a DNF for me. Like, I disliked it that much. I read like 60% of it, and then I honestly started skimming a lot, so I did finish it, but I did skim. Okay, you know what? Let's start with the good parts. Let's shine some light before we get into why I didn't like this. There were some parts of the story that I did enjoy. I liked that it was diverse. That was excellent. I liked that it was set in London. That was fun. I liked that the main character, Chloe, she actually has fibromyalgia, so she's dealing with a chronic illness that creates chronic pain. So it's a character living with an illness and pain all the time. And I also liked that, you know, love didn't cure her. At the end of the book, she still has fibromyalgia, you know? It doesn't go away because you love somebody. So I liked that aspect of the book, that, you know, she's still gonna have this, but she could still have her big happily ever after. She still deserves her happy ending. Love. There's things in here that were good. Let's be real. But I just wasn't a fan of the writing style in general, and that's a problem because that's how you tell the story, and if I don't like how the story is being told, doesn't matter if I like what the story is. The basic gist of the story here, we have Chloe and we have this guy named Red. Chloe, like I mentioned, she's a woman who has fibromyalgia. She's trying to live on her own because she realizes, hey, I need to get a life. So she makes this list of things to do in order to get a life and get back to the old Chloe. So she ends up enlisting the help of Red, who's kind of like the superintendent of her building, kind of like, you know, a cliche bad boy trope where he's like, ooh, I'm a painter and I also wear leather jackets and ride a motorcycle and I have long hair. And it's like, oh my gosh. like stereotype bad boy, but like in a fun way, and I like that. But anyway, she kind of enlists him in this like mission to get a life, and they start working together on the list. And Red has his own relationship issues as well, and you know, they're attracted to each other, and you know, and then they get together and then they break up and then they get back together. That's every rom-com ever, basically. And the thing is, this is way more slow burn than I think it needed to be. There's like whole chapters in here where they're just emailing each other. It's really hard to get these characters in proximity to each other so attraction can build if they're just emailing. So that was kind of like obnoxious to me, how slow paced it was when it didn't need to be that slow paced. Okay, here's the deal. Like the writing style in this, Chloe and Red are supposed to be grown-ass adults. They're not in their early 20s, they're not in college. They're grown adults. Like, she has her own business. He is a superintendent of a building and an artist. Like, they've been doing things as adults for a while. They're not kids. And so much of the humor in this book is really immature to the point where I felt the title should have been Grow the Fuck Up, Chloe Brown. But, you know what? If the same humor was involved and these characters were much younger, I feel maybe new adult era, like late teens, early 20s, like college age humor, it would have worked, because the immaturity level of the jokes in her inner monologue was just really weird to me, because she's a grown-ass fucking adult and she thinks like a child sometimes, and it's just like... So I think the ages of the characters and the humor level just weren't meshing for me. I think basically if the humor was a little bit more adult to match the age of the characters, or if the characters were a little younger to match the age of the humor, it would have worked better in a lot of ways. But the fact of the matter is, it's not like that. These are grown-ass adults with really immature thoughts and humor involved. So, like, I just wanted the characters to grow the fuck up the whole time, and it's just like, why are they children? They're grown adults. I don't understand. And, like, it just was bothering me so much. And I know everyone loves this, and it has things that are good in it. I recognize the good things, but, like, for me personally, like, it just wasn't hitting it. I just was, oh my gosh. Like, every time I wanted to pick up this book, I'd look at it and be like, God damn it, I gotta read that today. Like, it would just ruin my day knowing I had to read it. Like, it was giving me such a slump because I'm like, I hated it. Well, I didn't hate it. I really was not vibing with it. I didn't like it at all. And like everyone else loves it. So then I felt guilty about it. So I'm like, maybe I'm burnt out on romance. So I got to like 50% of this. I put the book down. I'm gonna try a different book. So I picked up Worst Best Man, and I've already reviewed this. You guys know I loved it. So I was worried, like, maybe I'm burnt out on romance. I'll pick up a different romance, see if I hate it too, because maybe it's me. Nope, that wasn't it. I loved The Worst Best Man, like, immediately. I started reading it, immediately hooked. So it's not romance, it's this book. I finished Worst Best Man, and then I looked at this again, and it was like, all right, let's try to finish this off. I'm gonna suck it up. And I read a little bit more, and then I was just like, I'm just gonna skim. I can't do this to myself. I feel like I'm a monster because I hated Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I'm the only person I have ever heard or seen in my Instagram feed or on my YouTube feed that has not liked this. Am I the only person in the world who didn't like it? I feel like I am, and there's something wrong with me. I'm glad that everyone else seems to love this very much, because it has some good things in it that I think people are picking up on, and I'm happy for them. But for me, oh man, this was such a chore, and I'm so bummed that I hated it. I'm so unhappy about it. I gave it like 2 stars. It had its moments, but not enough of them. So I didn't do a lot of reading in the end of February because I had a lot of stuff going on, but I did read 4 books, so I think that's like a notable amount of books to read. It's a fair amount. Considering most of them I was like, about. So I was getting kind of reading slumpy, honestly, so I was like putting off reading. Let me know in the comments down below. Have you read any of these books, and if so, did you like them? Did you hate them? Do you agree with me about Chloe Brown? Because I don't think anyone will. And I'm sorry I didn't like it. I wanted to. I really, really wanted to. So let me know about Lisa Kleypas heroes. Are they all garbage humans? So far, in my experience, they've been garbage humans. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. And if you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye!